You are watching Influence Media, PSI TV, the Netflix of biz brands.
Failure. It's real and it's painful. Have you ever failed? Has that failure ever caused you to shrink and just want to hide in a corner and just not show up anymore? This is the real fear of many leaders that is impacting their willingness to be visible in their industry, in their organization, in the marketplace. This is the conversation we're having today. We are looking at leadership visibility and the insecurities that impact leaders' willingness to show up. And this particular insecurity we're talking about today is a fear of failure. Now, this is part of a 5-part series. Last week we had part 1, and we're looking at the insecurity of the imposter syndrome. If you haven't seen that, the link will be here for you. You can go check it out. But this is going to be a 5-part series. This is part 2. We're looking at the fear of failure. What we're going to be covering today is a story and what research has to say on the whole issue of fear of failure and how that impacts our visibility. And over the course of the 5-part series, we'll also share some strategies to increase your discovery of you and your offer. Trudy Beerman here. This is a weekly show we do live on Mondays, 10:30 Eastern. Join us live or later. Not only am I the CEO of PSI TV, I am also a doctoral candidate at Liberty University, and this is the area of my research, influential reach. What are some of the things that fear of failure impacts leaders when it comes to their willingness to be visible? A lot of this fear of failure is very subconscious, We may not even realize that it is affecting us. Some of those reasons are we have our identity attached to success. We don't live to work, we work to live. So when you get up every day and you hustle and work hard, work can be its own reward because a lot of us love what we do. And so it becomes its own reward. At the end of the day, why are you working? What is it for? For most of us, it is for something bigger than ourselves. Like, for example, our families. And on deathbeds, there have been very few regrets of not going to work more and not working harder. So you may have to reevaluate your identity in regards to how you have that identity tied to your sense of success. Another subconscious cause that triggers the fear of failure is expecting judgment or criticism from those around you. You're just expecting it. It may not even happen. They may not even care what you're up to, but you expect it. Sometimes you've actually experienced it, but the expectation of it is its own. It drives that fear even more. The expectation of the judgment. What are people going to say about me? What's so-and-so going to think? Okay. The next subconscious trigger for this could be that lack of psychological safety. It could have been triggered from an earlier trauma, but you don't feel safe to show your authentic self in that space. You can't let the mask down, because you don't want people to realize you're probably weaker than they think you are. Another reason why the fear of failure is so real and so crystal clear for some of us is the need for external validation. If so-and-so doesn't say good job, or people aren't praising you and you're not getting the likes and the thumbs up, then you feel like you failed. And some of these could be the reason that's triggering it for you. The fear of failure is real. The fear is real. The failure is a real possibility. And the fear of failure is a huge insecurity that impacts leaders being willing to be visible amongst their peers, in their organization, in the marketplace. When you stand out, this is it, right? You stand out. And a lot of us would rather blend in. And when you blend in, you don't stand out. So you're just one of the herd. You're just hidden amongst the rest. And that there might be some safety and security in that. But as a leader, we stand out. And this visibility, this being visible, is truly a fearful experience for some of us. And this fear of being seen like this causes many of us to shrink, to hide, to not show up. And for someone who has overcome that personally, I know what it felt like to be very, very scared to show up. And I know what my experience is now that I'm on the other side of it. And guys, there is reward on the other side of that fear. The story we're going to talk about today, many of you know it. It's a story of giants and just regular humans like you and me. Now, like I said, you may know the story. The portion of it that I'm focusing on comes from Numbers 13, and it's a story of the spies that Moses sent to go and spy out the promised land. So God had told them very clearly, hey, I'm leading you to this promised land, and they're holding up in this area, and Moses sends these 12 spies to go and scout out the land that God has told them is going to be theirs. And they came back with a report, and it says, we came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. And it showed these huge, it's another part of the Bible, it showed these huge clusters of grapes. And I mean, it was just clearly the reward of occupying this land was going to be just this abundance. And then most of the spies said, we're not able to go up against the people, for they're stronger than we. The land through which we have gone to spy out, it is a land that devours its inhabitants. And all the people we saw in it are of great height. And we saw the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers. So they felt like they were looking at these giants and they felt inadequate. But yet, two other spies that went and saw the very same thing. This was their report. But Caleb and Joshua was also there too. Quieted the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it. Same experience, two different reports. How is that possible? And it's not what they saw, it's how they processed what they saw. This is a big clue for how we're going to overcome this fear of failure. The fear was real, and the failure possibility was absolutely real. They were giants there. And these people went and saw them, and they felt like grasshoppers. The fear was absolutely real. And the failure of being crushed by these people was absolutely possible. So what is it that made Caleb and Joshua convinced that they could have taken this land? And it was, and this only is probably going to apply to the Christ followers, so I'm sorry for the rest of you who don't believe in this sort of thing. I do. If God has said it, he's going to make it happen. They knew God was on their side. They had had many experiences that proved that. And so Joshua and Caleb were ready to go in and take the land, giants and all, whereas the others were looking at their own incompetence, their own lack of capabilities, what they could do in their own strength, and then they absolutely felt like grasshoppers in the face of these giants. And that could be one of the big clues. If you're a Christ follower, you probably need to tap into what God has said he is going to do for you. So let's take a look at another story. Here's another Bible story about real fear of failure. You may also know this one. This one comes from Genesis 32. And Jacob had run away from home because he had lied to his father and had taken the blessing that Isaac had wanted to give to Esau. And Esau swore to kill him. So he ran away, and he was actually gone for 20 years. But God had told him when he was running away that he was to come back and that he was going to be with him and all of that. So now Jacob is returning, knowing that his brother had this death threat. And he, in great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, the flocks and the herds and the camels. And he thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. So the loss of collateral, of assets, was absolutely real. Jacob anticipated it and said, hey, I may lose some stuff along the way, but maybe some may escape. This fear was real. The failure in this trip was real. And then Jacob prayed, oh God of my father Abraham, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. Goes on, he says, but you said, I will surely make you prosperous. Jacob was trusting in what God said and moving forward despite being absolutely fearful and in fear of failure. For the Christ follower, here is another nugget. You should be tapping into what God has said for us and tapping into that. These are, and I don't know what to tell you if you're not a Christ follower. This obviously you won't believe it. So here's what research has to say. Academic research, this is peer-reviewed research, and it is on the matter of leadership and visibility. And here's what it says. High expectations, greater visibility, and this difficulty accessing support are part of the job description of the role, wherein the real or imagined demands of others invariably exceed the capacity of ordinary human beings to meet them. And it's designed to make incumbents feel like they don't measure up. This fear of failure is real. I am not diminishing the fear. I am not diminishing the failure reality. I am not. The fact is that perceived or real, there is an expectation for the leader that is above the human capacity to meet. It is above it. The staff have it, the people around have it, the vendors, the people we serve have it, and we have it. We have it of ourselves. We have it of how we think people think about us. And this is very real. I'll give you an example. In my own home, my husband has said many things. We treat him like a superhero. He fixes so many things. He has so many abilities, and we literally treat him like a superhero. And sometimes he feels the weight of that on his shoulder, and he has broken down a couple of times and said, I'm not God. I can't fix all these things. And he truly feels the weight of the responsibility and of the expectations. And this is real across the board for leaders. This is one of the reasons why we'd rather just hide and not bring any attention to ourselves. But that's no way to grow or scale or get your message out or provide that solution and that leadership and illumination to those you're called to serve. Here's what Jordan Peterson had to say on this. Let's watch this excerpt.
No doubt about this. Even the psychophysiological findings are quite clear. If you impose a stressor on two groups of people, and on one group the stressor is imposed involuntarily, and on the other group the stressor is picked up voluntarily, the people who pick up the stressor voluntarily use a whole different psychophysiological system to deal with it. They use the system that's associated with approach and challenge, and not the system that's associated with defensive aggression and withdrawal.
Not the system that's associated with defense and withdrawal, but they approach it with a sense of adventure and challenge. This is also a clue as to how to overcome the very, very real fear of failure. Here's another quote from Jordan Peterson that I thought really captured it. To be fully self-conscious means that you're perfectly aware of your limitations and how you might be hurt, and then to make the decision to move forward into the unknown and the land of the stranger anyways. That's one of the secrets to a good life. I don't know about you, but I would like that good life. See, we have to be visible as leaders. We have to be visible as Christ followers. We are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light to all that are in the house. So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Now, let's say for the secular person for a moment, you have this message, you have this solution, you have this lifestyle upgrade. Why are you keeping it hidden? Because others are going to benefit from it. And if you're a Christ follower, this is almost a mandate from the word of God. So you need to be doing this. We are all uniquely made with specific talents and interests and things that come naturally easy to us, and the resources that are around us that uniquely position us to do a specific thing. And failure to do that, well, you're just going to go back to God the same way he created you. And I don't think that's quite what he wanted. So the goal of this series, this 5-part series, this is part 2. These are things that are impacting leadership visibility. We talked about the fear of failure. The fear is absolutely real. Our goal is to contribute to you going from unknown to discovered, so you will have that brand elevation advantage. I do watch the comment section, guys. Say hello, and I do respond. And if you watch live or later, thank you very much. Trudy Beerman here. Super simple to find, and I do look forward to connecting with you. Watch for part 3. It's coming.